SEO growth hacks. Hacking using your competitors as leverage. One of the hardest things that we all have to do at some point is build a competitor list. You need to know what they're doing in order to outrank them, understand what their best content is in order to outrank them on that, but also understand their pricing structure. What are they doing that's giving them traction? One of the best ways to outrank your competitors on SEO is to see where their best do-follow backlinks are coming and start creating either profiles or asking for, hey, a competitor blog post on the same site. Our goal is to essentially match our competitors across every area that we possibly can so that over time, we're doing a leapfrog on everything that they've been doing. There is a reason that there are competitors. It's because they're doing something that works. Find out what that is and start scaling it internally on your own. This is one of the most misunderstood elements of SEO and growth hacking. Growth hacking content. Content is one of those things that I absolutely love. I think that's why every marketer got into marketing. The reality is the old school traditional mindset of how long a blog post should be is in the days of journalists and branding and strategy. The reality is most blog posts need to be 2,500 words plus. There's tons of data out there that basically show the longer the blog post, 10,000 words plus, the more social shares it gets, which is a big indicator in Google's eyes as to social proof and whether or not people actually engage with your content. The other side of it is in terms of ranking on LSI, latent semantic indexing, you need to hit different areas of a topic inside of that article. So the goal is long form content always wins. Show examples, go down every single pathway that you possibly could and make sure that it's clear and it's skimmable. Growth hacking digital strategy. This is one of my favorite principles. It's called the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. We've all probably heard this before, but it's really simple. So think about it like this, and it exists everywhere. 80% of the alcohol is drank by 20% of the population. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your salespeople. The reality is we have to think of our content, our pages, and basically everything that we do in this 80-20 kind of range. We have to realize that not everything is going to go as planned, and so putting forth a ton of energy, hoping, fingers crossed, that everything will pan out is ultimately how we actually figure out what works. And we're able to scale things that work by knowing this. So the reality is if you look inside of analytics, see which articles are ranking really well. Those articles that are, go in and add more content. Update them and make sure to continue to link to those because those are your top 20%. Keyword density versus LSI. These days, it's really challenging to explain to people the old days of what SEO used to be. When I used to search for something, I would do 1 or 2 keywords. So in the old days of shopping for jeans, I would type in jeans. Nowadays, it's not that, it's far from it. If I'm looking for a pair of jeans, I type in jeans, acid wash, boot cut, 30 by 33, I don't know, my favorite brand, Levi's. The reality is nobody's searching for jeans in a single word. So we have to make sure that we're hitting lots of different word bubbles of the same concept. So this is what latent semantic indexing is. It's a really fancy phrase, LSI, for synonyms. So we want to make sure that we're hitting different synonyms. One way to know what types of synonyms you need to include is either using keyword density tools or keyword checking tools, or just seeing what's at the very bottom of the search engine results pages and making sure to add in those questions or at least those specific searches. What the hell are site schemas? Site schemas are basically a structure that allows Google to understand this is all of what is inside of your individual page, your post. Is it a recipe? Is it a review? It's helping Google understand and document what you're actually serving up to potential visitors. The reality is this is why WordPress changed this whole layout from the classical layout to Gutenberg. We need to make sure that we are outlining every single individual section of text so that Google understands, oh, this is an H2, meaning a title section, or these are bullet points, or the post itself is actually a review. All of these things add up to better searchability, and that means you need to really dig into site schemas and figure out how can I make sure that Google understands what is on my site, what is on my individual articles, and how they should go about parsing it out. How to fight the Google algorithm and win. The reality is you have approximately 2 days to get a ton of engagement early on for your videos. So our goal is to make sure that we allow us to be really searchable, but also put this video in front of people that might actually want to watch. That means going into Facebook groups and dropping a link to your most recent video inside of the group. That means going to Reddit groups or subreddits and essentially answering these questions with your video. Quora is a great atmosphere for being able to answer questions with video as well. And by the way, it takes up a huge portion of all the answers. The goal is, how can I answer the most amount of questions using one singular piece of content? This will drive more traffic, more engagement, and that will indicate to YouTube whether or not your video is worth spreading around to other people. How to find anybody's email online for practically free. There are so many great tools that allow for great data enrichment these days. You're wasting your time if you're Google searching and trying to find email address for blank or email address for so-and-so. Some of my favorites, Snovio. Snovio is a great little tool that allows you to take anybody's LinkedIn profile and hopefully find their email address. Find That Lead is a fantastic tool, and they actually give free credits every single month. Hunter.io is the standard. Everybody knows those guys. Go check them out. You can use them for a while until they say, hey, you're using too much for free. Rocket Reach. Rocket Reach is a great tool. I think a lot of people miss the opportunities by using the freemium model on that too. Adapt.io. Adapt.io is a really nice tool that allows you to find within every single company the right person to go to. There are tons of tools, and if you do a Google search, how to find anybody's email address, you'll find dozens of websites that do it for you. How to find time to grow your startup. The reality is not everybody's able to quit their current day job and put full-time effort into their startup. But the reality is setting a schedule that allows you to actually complete work either on a weekly or at least on a couple of days, couple of hours here basis is where it's at. There is zero chance that your company will scale if you only put in 1 day a week for the next 2 years. The reality is we have to start setting time for doing this. If you have a favorite television show, then you're fucking wasting your time. The reality is you have to spend time, energy, and effort to scale. And most people aren't willing to do that. So my goal is to make sure that I take 1 day out of my current week in order to focus full time on my desired outcomes, my startup that I really want to grow. When I built my company Architecture Quote, I worked every Sunday from 11 until 8. See what you can do in terms of shaving off 1 day a week and come back to me and tell me how it worked out for you. How to get really good at digital marketing. Marketing is all about systems. Understanding one system really well allows you to apply all the learnings to other systems. If you understand content, how to write really long, great, informative blog posts, you can start to learn other things within digital marketing. So the idea is if you can write great content, you can start to understand SEM. SEM opens up the doors to a little bit of the technical marketing, so now you can start opening up more and more opportunities within SEM. So search engine marketing, that's Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Google ads. If you start learning those, then you can start learning some of the integrations and maybe outbound campaigns. All of these things are cyclical. Everything in marketing is kind of interconnected. There is no one island within marketing. So if you can understand one area really well, start learning that area and it applies to all the other systems. SEO 2.0. SEO 2.0 was coined by Brian Dean, but the concept is really simple. We want to build content around intent. The whole concept of what is somebody searching for prior to finding your website. What is it that they want to look for that your solution, your article, your website provides an answer to? This is really powerful when we start actually building out long form pieces of content because we want to make sure that we're citing a lot of really interesting statistics. We're putting examples in, but we're also making it skimmable. It is incredibly powerful to make sure that people are on your website for longer. So that means long form content always works better. Showing examples, bullet points is super helpful, as well as a table of contents. Within WordPress, you can actually download multiple plugins that allow you to get really creative with some of the really simplistic table of contents. Tools for checking for duplicate content. One of the biggest problems that people often run into is putting out duplicate content on their own site and on others. The reality is Google looks to see whether or not you've put the same lines of text across different websites and your own. There is absolutely no reason to have the same text anywhere else on your website. So my favorite tool for this, SiteLiner. SiteLiner identifies what tools or what areas of your website are identical. That way you can tweak, you can change. Now the reality is sometimes you have to use the same pictures, but for the most part, everything on every single page should be unique. If we're focused on offsite stuff, use Copyscape. Copyscape is a fantastic tool that allows you to see if you're guest posting and you have another post on your website, did somebody copy all of it? It's a really easy tool, plug in, and it's cheap. My name is Taylor Ryan. I put out a ton of content. Like and subscribe. I run a growth hacking agency in Copenhagen, Denmark. Make sure to subscribe to see more of this stuff.